Latinx professionals, and she's also part of the Skyline Health and Wellness Center. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for coming.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
And second, we have Andrea Vizenor, the Dean of Strategic Partnerships and Workforce Development. In her role as the Dean of Strategic Partnerships and Workforce Development, Andrea continues to pave the way for new program development and CTE advancements as part of the Strong Workforce Program and Carl Perkins Grant. Her work includes expansion of dual enrollment and K-12 partnerships, adult school bridge to school bridge to college and career programming, high-value employer partnership creation along with the design of valuable short-term workforce training programs, and career readiness and job placement programming. Andrea also held 7 leadership roles across Hyatt hotels and resorts over her 10-year career with them, and has worked as a high school teacher in career education for 7 years in the areas of hotel and hospitality, business and entrepreneurship, and sales and marketing. Hello, Andrea, welcome.
Hello, Ellaine. Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Moreno, our Skyline College president. And I just want to share a part of Dr. Moreno's journey and how she's been involved in the California community college system. Dr. Moreno began her journey in the California community college system in 2008 after 23 years as a small business owner in law, hospitality, and real estate. Her first stop was at the Santa Barbara Community College District as a founding director of the Scheinfeld Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Santa Barbara City College, or SBCC. In 2014, Dr. Moreno was promoted to Dean of the SBCC Business Division, and in 2017, Dr. Moreno was promoted to Vice President at SBCC. Last year in 2020, Dr. Moreno's second and hopefully last stop in the system is at the San Mateo County Community College District as the new president of Skyline College. After her initial listening tour, she developed 4 goals for her first year. 1, to shore up the participatory governance process to ensure all voices help shape Skyline's future. 2, to ensure fiscal stability for the next 3 to 5 years. 3, to innovatively engage a community despite a pandemic. And 4, to move an anti-racist agenda forward. Hello, Dr. Moreno. It's great seeing you here today.
Hi, Ellaine and everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again to all the panelists for coming today. And to start off our panel, I have a question for you all. My first question is, what are some challenges you've overcome throughout your career? Who would like to go first?
I'm happy to go first. I think one of the most challenging things I've ever faced in my, I guess now almost 40-year career is starting a job remotely as a president of a campus and trying to, have open and transparent communication with everyone and understanding all that we offer and getting to know people and across campus and our students. And so honestly, I would say that's my biggest challenge ever. So I've been 100% remote since August, and really is sort of career changing and life changing and trying to figure out challenges that we've never faced before. So, I mean, I've had a lot of challenges along the way, but this one tops them all.
For me, I think when I started out my career at my former institution, I was the youngest one there. I started there when I was 24, and whether it was feeling like I was either dismissed for my age or not completely seen for all my identities that I was bringing to the table, I think that was really difficult. And so I think that ended up motivating me even more to really do my job really well so that my work can speak for me as far as like what people are seeing.
It's all about the mic, right? Like, when should I go in? So thank you, Michelle and Dr. Moreno. When I was thinking about this, I was reflecting over, again, those many years that Dr. Moreno mentioned. And every time we say the number of years, it gets further away. And you're like, wait a minute, that's like 30 something years ago that our careers have started. But I think about just oftentimes as women, some of the challenges that we're facing is, facing the gender stereotypes that exist, right? And so I remember, in one of my positions in leadership, sharing this idea or perspective that I had, and immediately a male counterpart mentioned, something about how we have to leave emotion out of our strategy. And it kind of socked me in the gut. It was like, wait a minute, what? That wasn't emotional, because I can be emotional and that wasn't emotional. But it was one of those immediate kind of stereotypes that as a woman, if I was contributing a strong idea, that there must be some sort of emotion behind it, right? And so I remember kind of reflecting, and in the moment I was caught off guard. So I just kind of kept moving, I just kept moving with the activity we were engaging in. But the more I reflected on that, I thought about, okay, how do I handle that in the future? And how do I address that moving forward? And I think some of the strategies is really, inviting myself and giving myself permission to bring my whole self to work, right? So I wasn't gonna turn into something else because that was threatening to my male counterpart. So I think that was something that was really, a lesson that took some time to learn. That wasn't early on. I mean, that was definitely probably in the last 5 years. So, for those of you who are younger, you're going to probably go through that at different phases when you're moving through career and just learning a lot more about yourself. And so I think I wanted to share that as it pertains to something that showed up in my space.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing that. I feel like I can relate to all of your responses, especially Dr. Moreno's. I kind of started my job as a campus ambassador remotely, so it was like a new change for me too. And I also relate to all the gender stereotypes. And as being like a young woman, I actually started middle college and concurrent enrollment at Skyline College, so it was like difficult for me at first to navigate Skyline College, but I was able to learn how to navigate by getting support from and resources from Skyline College. And also for me, I had a personal challenge as a woman because sometimes I felt like I had to be quiet, or I felt like I had to be shy with speaking up. So I just it was kind of hard for me to gain that confidence. So I just want to ask you all, how are you able to develop that confidence, especially in your leadership role?
Well, I put some thought into, what does it mean to be confident? And I don't know that I have any advice around what is confidence or how to be confident, but I have this this sort of core understanding of who I am as a person and what are my core values in, moving through this space on Earth and even here. And so I feel like as long as I'm keeping my core values, which are like, transparency, honesty, authenticity, things like that, if I'm keeping those things centered, then I feel that gives me the confidence to make a decision or to interact with people because I'm consistent and I'm true to myself. And I relate to what Andrea said about, how long it took me to bring my whole self to work. That is really, I think, a true struggle for a lot of us because you're scared. You're scared to bring who you really are. And instead, you're bringing who you think people want you to be. And so having, I guess, the core values is sort of helps me to stay centered and grounded and to then have the confidence to make decisions because I know that I'm making decisions consistent with who I am and with, doing what's right and doing what's real. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what I was thinking about, how I'm grounded in who I am, which is super helpful.
That awkward silence. Okay, I can share, and so we'll play around with the order here just so folks can get a different perspective from each question. So when I was thinking about confidence as a woman, the things that came to mind were kind of the 3 Ps for me. It was preparation, because I knew very early on, the more prepared I was, the more confident I was. And if I was showing up in a class in high school and I wasn't prepared, I was extremely not confident, right? So I was learning that at an early age, that the more I was prepared to walk into a situation, that naturally brought a bit more confidence. And I think just doing the work to make sure that you're prepared. And then I think also just finding spaces where you're able to align either your education or your work around what you believe your purpose is. Like, why are you here in the first place? Like, what gets you most excited? And how can you be connected to things in that space? And so I think the more aligned you are with your purpose, also that naturally builds some more confidence. I would also say positive self-talk and love, and that is a labor of love. All these years later, I still work on that on a daily basis. And so really thinking about, even in high school, I remember being in a public speaking class and I failed it. And it was like, I couldn't teach my classmates how to bake cookies. And it was so humiliating, right? And now here I've taught, classes, many classes. I'm sitting here talking with you all today, but I literally couldn't stand up in front of, my 17 and 18 or 16 and 17-year-old friends to show them how to make cookies. Like, it was so embarrassing. And so you have to kind of pick yourself up and really just say, you got this, you got this. And I remember when I was getting ready for this speech, I'm like, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I can do this, right? So it was like negative self-talk. And so when you're thinking about the moments and preparing for them, really giving yourself a pat on the back, like, you got this, you deserve to be here. Absolutely, you can do this. And then combining that with the preparation and really aligning with what you love, that to me creates like the perfect storm for confidence.
Yeah, spinning off of Andrea's thoughts on purpose, I think that trusting that you are where you're supposed to be in that moment, right? And wherever you are, whether you're a student, faculty, staff, or in any experience, you have a responsibility and you have something to contribute. I was lucky enough to have a boss at one point. He was like, "Be sure to speak up at our meetings." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Because we want to know what you think. We want to hear from you. And if we didn't, you wouldn't be here." And I was like, "Wow, okay, that's awesome. And thank you." Like, it helped me take a breath and stay grounded and say, "Oh yeah, that's right. You hired me for this position. I do have lots to contribute." So I think it's having trust in that you are where you're supposed to be. And then in that, you'll figure out what you have to contribute.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I feel like, yeah, to be confident, you need to be confident with who you are, with what you do, and you need to learn from those experiences, from the stories, to grow more as a person. So I feel like that's really great advice in getting your confidence. And now I just want to talk about inspiration. My next question is, who or what inspired you to become an executive woman leader? And I'll pass this question on to Michelle.
So this question is interesting because I don't think I woke up one day and I was like, I want to be an executive woman. So I think, no, not I think, I know it was my grandma and my mom both were super encouraging, and they were like, "Mija, you can be whatever you want to be, travel the world, do all the things, go get an education." Because my grandma got as far as 10th grade in high school, and my mom was in community college for a couple of years, and then they started their families. And so, they're like, "Go achieve all the dreams that we didn't have the opportunity to achieve yet." And so I'm like, okay, great, I'm going to do that. And so I think from that, and then I also have an aunt that has been really active politically and part of the Chicano movement, and just seeing her as an example has been super inspiring for me when I'm growing up, and even now still. So I think having women within my family to look to, and then eventually finding colleagues and friends that serve as that continuing inspiration.
I'll play off of Michelle because she mentioned grandmother, and that was one of the first persons I thought of as well. And she was a key figure in my life growing up. My mother had twins at 16, and so she basically was the mom. And she had 12 children of her own, and so my mother was the youngest. And so it was like all of a sudden these twins became the extra, 2 kids. So now making it a 14-person family. And she had incredible strength just to keep the family going. And we grew up in Minnesota, so we were on a farm. And so there's a lot of really hard work that happened even as a female in those times. They also moved on to own a restaurant in the small town that we grew up in. And so it was a real hallmark of the area. And she always instilled, work hard, treat people well, make sure that, when you're in a space that you're there and leaving it better than before you got there, right? So really making sure that folks felt better just interacting with you in general. And I would say that, for me too, she was the kind of person who always was like, pursue your dreams. It's not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like your mom's. It's not going to look like anyone else's. It's going to be your own, and you'll find it. So just keep looking for it. And then when I moved into my career, early into my career with Hyatt Hotels, I would have to say it's Rita Starr. She was one of the first general managers that I worked for. And I was 22 years old, starting with Hyatt Hotels. And she was one of 10 women executives in the company. At that time, there were over 150 women, executives in general, but she was only one of 10. And she taught me that every act, big or small, is a direct reflection of who you are as a professional. And it happened over a copy machine, which that is dating myself right now, but it was many years ago. And I remember getting ready for a meeting with her, and I was making some photocopies, and the document that I was photocopying was slightly turned, right? And so I'm just, there at the photocopy machine thinking I'm really great. I'm with the general manager, we're getting ready for a meeting. And she pulled up one of the copies and she was like, so we're going to have to redo that. And I was like, wait a minute, what? I was trying to figure out why she was wanting me to redo the photocopies, and it was slightly shifted, and she said, anytime we walk in a room, anything we hand out, anything we do is a direct reflection of us. And so even this photocopy, which seems like a very simple thing, is a reflection of the care that you're putting towards the types of materials and resources you're sharing with other people. And I'll tell you, I haven't forgotten that copy machine experience since, but she continued to just show me that there was a space for women, even when there wasn't, because that was now probably close to 25 years ago. But even just paying attention to the very little details, how much that can make a difference just in who you are and what message you're sending out there as a female leader in particular.
Yeah, my first thought is to go to my father, who, his parents were immigrants, and they were masons, building things, and it was a family business. And my dad ended up putting himself through college, and he had 3 daughters. And so his big thing for his 3 daughters was to make sure that we all went to college. That was his big thing. And so he was really sort of, I guess, he became a feminist because he had 3 daughters. Like, you kind of have to become a feminist as a dad of 3 girls. And so he just was, there was just never a question in his mind that he was going to, make money to make sure that we all went to college. And, what I learned very quickly in the workplace is that not all men were like my dad. And, I guess #MeToo, my experience has always been in male dominated fields. So, I'm going out on my own as a businesswoman, in the legal field, all male dominated. And I didn't really have female role models as leaders until I came into the education arena. And so I just, I had to fight, fight to be noticed and to, have my work recognized. And, so on some level I had to be, bold about it to survive, I guess, in the workplace. And, but I also had 3 amazing male leaders. And so I think as I developed my own leadership style, I was the youngest of 3 girls too. So I kind of do this. I take the things I like from my sisters. I took the things that I liked from leaders and then reject the rest and then build my own sort of way that I want to move through the world. And so I think I was fortunate because ultimately I had 3 really great male bosses. And in fact, I would say Chancellor Claire at the district is one of those. But, it wasn't always easy. And I just want to share one quick story about when I started in the education arena. My first job was to develop, to find or found, I was the first founder of the Entrepreneurship Center. And I will never forget my first day at work. I was asked to present my vision for the Entrepreneurship Center. And so and it was for the business division, and the business division was all men. So here I am standing up with my vision, and I finish. And just so you know, by the way, it took about 1.5 to 2 years, and I implemented every single thing. Like I have those original PowerPoint slide presentation. I implemented every single thing that I presented. And when I was done with my presentation, one of the people in the room said to me, "Well, I certainly hope you're not just another pretty face that doesn't get the job done." And that was my first day at work. And I'll never forget, my dean at the time pulled me aside and she's like, "Do you want to file a sexual harassment or harassment complaint or gender complaint?" And I was like, "No, this is my first day at work." I mean, that's a terrible way to begin. And so you just sort of suppress those things. And, I worked for that district for 13 years. And so, I'm just putting it out there that it's sometimes really challenging as you're moving through your career. And like, that would have, I think, been a real stain. That's what I was thinking at the time. What a stain that would have been on my career if I had filed a complaint on my first day against a male at the district. So I didn't do it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about your inspiration. Yeah, for me, I didn't really have much inspiration. I mean, like I had to rely on myself sometimes. I had to like be my own inspiration, and something that stood out from all of the panelists, all of you, was that you had to pursue your dreams. And it's not gonna look like anyone else's. So yeah, I think it's also important to be your own inspiration, and instead of just relying on other people. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And now I just want to move on to the next question about impact. So, how do you plan to continue making an impact as an executive woman leader? And I'll let Andrea answer first.
Thank you. I think as far as making an impact, I've been wanting to do this in different ways, but I think mentoring other women is really important. And now Women's Mentoring and Leadership Academy is under the division that I lead. But even before then, I used to be like a groupie. I would just be like, I need to be part of this. I really want to, just engage and contribute in any way I could, not because I felt like I had the answers, but I just think that having the dialogue and showing up and sharing can often be those aha moments that students and individuals need to just feel validated, right? And so I felt like that was really a great space. So mentorship is just, something that I often think about. And if you were part of the board meeting last night, you might have heard Ms. Cowell talk about sisterhood. And so I think a lot about sisterhood, right? And I don't think that we do that enough as women leaders. Like, hello, where's the Sisterhood Women Leaders, Zoom session at 4 p.m. Like, let's do this, right? And, virtual high five each other and really create a space of togetherness so we can kind of have open dialogue around like what's going on and how do we support one another and how do we learn from the experiences of each other. and really be kind of intentional about that as we are just about all the other things we organize on our calendars. So when this question was poised, I was like, this is like that sense of urgency. I need to kind of start making some things happen. And so for me, I think it's also the ability to take time just to know that as women, we deserve that space, right? You know, 25 years ago, it was the golf course for men. They'd show up on the golf course and all the deals were made and those kinds of things. And so really creating a space where women feel supported, they're, you know, learning from one another, but also safe and you know, secure in the ways in which they can think about their role as executives, around their role in their community, in family and things like that.
I plan on continuing to make an impact through getting my doctorate degree. I'm in a program right now, and the focus is social justice and equity. And my dissertation will be on increasing Latinx in California community colleges, because I think that our students really need that role model, right? The majority of the students that we serve are Latinx and students of color, and there need to be more of us in positions like this. So my hope, my plan, my goal is to, you know, shift that narrative of what students have experienced in this system and outside, and realizing that the challenges that we face and those times when we lack confidence, that's okay, that's normal. And those are just moments, and it doesn't define who you are. And we also don't have to judge it. You just acknowledge the feeling and you keep taking the next step. So.
Thank you, Michelle. I really relate to that. I, you know, as I get older, I think more and more about impact. And, you know, I saw on the Padlet that, like, thinking about the impact that you have that lasts after you leave. And so I'm at that age where I'm really considering that. And so I spent a lot of time as a new president thinking about, you know, what are the changes that I'm going to influence, I guess, as a president, and what are the lasting impacts after I'm gone. And so I've never really approached a job in that way before now. And I think it has something to do with age. And so I've been thinking a lot about how, and this is sort of all based on what I'm hearing from our campus community. And I'm just thinking about how we make Skyline College more the people's college, and making sure that, you know, we're in this together and we're shaping Skyline's future together. And so your voice matters, and it's so important to have sort of this democratic decision-making process. And so what I'm really thinking about, just, and that's just like one part of this, but I think about, I want to make that our democracy at Skyline College president-proof, so that when I'm gone, you know, the college is well situated with a process that we created together that will have lasting impact in the future. And so that's just one idea that I have that means something special to me, to make sure that we really understand that we're in this together and we move the future together. And so, yeah, so I'm hoping that that's part of my legacy.
Yeah,
Sorry, Ellaine, if I could add something, President Moreno like made me think of something else. You know, as far as impact for the folks that are here, I don't think you need to have the title executive to be able to make an impact. So know that in whatever seat you're sitting in, you have influence and impact where you are. So you don't have to wait.
Yes, that's so true. I totally agree with you, Michelle, because it matters. The actions that you do matter rather than your title. So it's about the legacy that you bring, the story that you share, and the experiences you share with everyone. Because how you present yourself to other people will inspire them to do the same. And yeah, we also need to like have like the story, I like the space to share stories and to feel safe, so we can all grow together, because we're better as a community rather than just working by ourselves. And also for the last question for now, and while we go on with the panel, I just want to encourage everyone else here to ask your questions in the chat, and I'll just choose one of the questions for the Q&A. So for the panel right now, I just want to ask who or what inspires you to continue on your journey now, like in the present?
I'll start with that because my 10-year-old's running around the living room. So I have one beautiful son who's 10, and it felt like he was 2 yesterday. So I'm like trying to hold on to every moment I can before he turns into a teenager or preteen who rolls his eyes when he sees his mom. So, you know, my son is absolutely the reason I do what I do. And it's so cool when he sees me now that we've been, you know, this is one of those kind of shiny spots as a result of the pandemic, because he's been able to see me do my work, right? Before it was like, Mom, you're at work all this time and you're spending time there and not with me. And it's like this whole tug of war that we face as moms. And so now he'll like see me in an event like this, or earlier we were doing an AI event and he was just like, Mom, that's so cool. You're talking to like NVIDIA and that person and this person, you know? And so now he's really seeing kind of a glimpse of what it means to go to work every day. And so for me, that is just like, it's like a win-win. And it creates another level of connection for me and my son, because now it's not that I'm just going to work and not spending time with him, but that I'm doing things that he thinks is kind of cool.
You know, the folks that inspire me now are the current students that I work with and the former students that I work with. I think what brings me joy are the relationships that I've been able to develop over the years and maintain. So to be able to still receive texts and emails, being connected to those students and hearing about what they're doing. And then also inspiration from my colleagues, right? From my colegas, like whether it's shifting to another higher position or getting a full-time tenure track position. That's really exciting and motivating, and it's just exciting to share in that celebration with your colleagues and to really enjoy the folks that you work with and know that you are mission driven, and it's hard work, but it's work that is worth it.
Yeah, I would say, you know, the whole reason I'm here is to help move our students to a place where they are reaching their educational goals. I mean, I hold that in my heart every day. And so there's just certain pockets of inspiration that I'm finding even in this remote environment around Skyline. And I sort of feel like our best kept secret are all of these amazing support groups and learning communities that we have at Skyline. And I'm gradually discovering them little by little. So I've discovered Cypher. I went to the Rock the School Bells event. You know, I went to the Lowrider cultural event. I've been to BAM, which is Brothers Achieving Milestones. I participated in the Puente Familia events. I've been to WIMLA, the Women's Mentoring and Leadership Academy, and that is a space where I just want to hang out all day. And so it's like all of those things that we have that are extra above and beyond, you know, the sort of traditional classroom environment. That's what I think makes this community so special, and it's what helps students get through whatever they're going through. Umoja A-Step, that's another one. We have a new leader there, Dr. Chad Coates, who's amazing. And so we just have an incredibly inspiring community, and that's why I'm here, and it's what drew me here. And I always say I'm here as long as you'll have me. And this is what just, you know, being accepted as your president is just so inspiring. And, Yeah, and it's our students and how amazing our students are every day. The struggles that our students, you know, persist through, and it's just that's what drives me, and I'm here to do whatever I can and to use my position of power and privilege to make sure that we are moving the agenda that our students need forward.
Yeah, I really appreciate your answers about like the current relationships we had and the relationships we made in the past. And I really appreciate how we're able to connect in the space, especially when it's on Zoom. It's kind of harder compared to in person. So I really like how we're still getting inspiration from this spaces like these. And I see we have a few questions in the chat. I'll just ask the question from Oliver. This is kind of a long one. With conversations about gender and race having been spotlighted in the last few years and even months, how do we move forward in ensuring that the narrative is expanded to properly support trans women, women of color, and other groups facing various barriers on account of the intersectionality of one's identity as it relates to matters of gender and racial inequality?
That's a mouthful. That's a big question. I love this question. I guess I opened my mouth first. I should probably finish and try to answer. But you know, for me, in terms of my role as president, I have made anti-racism a priority. And so we have a number of things that are going on, and anti-racism, it isn't just sort of a standalone effort. And, you know, as we move through our initiatives, you know, we are addressing gender and trans and all of the, you know, intersectionality along the way. And so, for example, one of the things that we're moving through, and maybe students haven't heard about this, is we are adopting intergroup dialogue. And so we're training and learning about how to have conversations and how to have a common language of understanding and how to listen to each other. And so I say, for example, I was trained to be a lawyer, and a lawyer is trained to listen, to debate, to listen, to argue, to listen, to respond. So this is the intergroup dialogue is the opposite. So I have to untrain myself to listen, to understand, to listen, to hear, to listen, to have empathy. And then we create this way of having a common language so that we can dialogue about all of these things that we're facing. And then we're going to start having dialogue. So this is like the prep for having the dialogues around all of these issues, and how do we move forward as a campus to make sure that we're addressing everything. And we're having some really difficult conversations around, in the anti-racism world, you know, what's the difference between anti-Blackness and anti-Asian? And especially given all of the, you know, anti-Asian American and Pacific Islander hate that we're seeing in our news right now. And so, you know, we have to be inclusive. We can't, you know, we can't leave anyone out. And so these are the conversations we're having, the hard conversations. No one's struggle is more important than anyone else's.
I would add, as well, as a white woman, it's like my job to make sure I'm staying informed and being taught like what I need to be knowing about in all of these areas, right? And I think as you know, I show up with a certain level of privilege in these rooms, and so I have to look around the room and say, okay, who's not here and who's not being represented in whatever we're planning or doing or designing, and making sure that we are creating a space for folks to be there and to take part. And so I think just, you know, intentionality and really paying it, paying good mind to, what's missing, so that it does feel like an inclusive experience, a program, whatever it might be that we're doing to support students in our community within Skyline, I think is really important. And I think it's that ability to give yourself permission not to get it right sometimes. And I remember, with one of my team members a couple weeks ago, I'm like, okay, you need to get me smart about this because I know I'm not near where I need to be in this area. And so just being vulnerable is going to be really important too. I think we have to just be vulnerable in these spaces and be, kind of just bare to all the things that can happen when you don't have all the right answers, right? But that can just result in so much more understanding, and also just creating a space for us to do the things that are much more powerful, because we've just taken those moments of vulnerability. We've taken that moment of intentionality to look in the room, to consider those things as part of the process, not just we hope we're, this, we hope we're that, but have we thought about this? What about that? Really being in a space of digging deeper into that, I think is really important.
Last year we had a safe zone training, and so I think part of it is definitely training for our faculty and classified staff, but not only around language or around how to be allies, but really how to do the active work of being conspirators, and what does that look like in real life. And also in creating those spaces and, different programmings are meeting the needs of those communities of trans women, women of color, making sure that those students that belong to those communities are actually in those discussions, developing the programmings, right? Nothing for you without you. So I think that's a really important piece. And also letting those communities know that they have support that's accessible to them at Skyline, whether that's health concerns or whether that's emotional support as well. So.
Yeah, I really like these answers, these responses about how we should combat these issues, because it can be a really hard topic for some people. So we need to start having these conversations, create the safe space for everyone, and just support each other, because we need to work together instead of just being right. We need to learn and just find new ways to help everyone out. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone else's responses, and we're almost close to the end of the event time. So right now we're going to take a group picture just to capture these memories and the community space we have here.
Hello. Okay, that's me. I'm picture guy. So I welcome everybody. If you would like to take a picture with us, I know y'all been rocking with us for the past hour, so feel free to turn your video on and feel free to fix your whatever you need to fix. Right? I'm a 2-picture type of person, so if the first one don't work, you got a second one, but if the second one don't work, I'm sorry. Alrighty. So 3, 2, 1. All right. You could change or shift your weight. I'd like to do both. Yep. Michelle got it. All righty. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Back to you, Ellaine.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Since we're close to the event time, I'll just end things here. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing again. It's really great hearing these stories, and I feel like everyone can learn a lot from these experiences and the inspirational advice you gave. And yeah, of course, I'd like to thank the audience too for coming. I appreciate everyone for being here just to be in this space.